East or West, home is best, a program about people who were born in Kazakhstan and left the country, but after a while returned to their homeland. Home is best. A mountain, a man must overcome many difficulties. While battling the forces of nature, as he rises to the top, he surpasses himself. The journey enriches his heart and soul and makes his dreams come true. Everyone has their own Mount Everest to conquer. The hero of today's program is very special. Today we'll tell you the story of the first Kazakh to conquer all 14 highest peaks of the world, including Mount Everest and K2. Our hero is the captain of Kazakhstan's national alpinist team, an international master of sports. Over the past few years, he has climbed more than 20 peaks of highest category of difficulty.
Максут Жумаев.
Golgene, menim Kazakhstanım.
Maksut, childhood memories make a great impression on any individual. What do you remember of your childhood? What were the most memorable events? I was born near the Ural River in the village of Fedorovka, Teranovsky district. Then I moved to the Chupayev district because my parents relocated there for work. My whole childhood is connected to this place. There were various sport clubs at the village school, and so I became interested in athletic activities. I've done everything from wrestling and judo to various game sports. One of the most memorable hobbies while living in the village was aircraft modeling. If I were to draw parallels between my childhood and adult life, I joined the tourist club when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. That's pretty early. It had a lot to do with the fact that our school in Chupayev, Russian school number 1, had a very strong tourist club. They won district level and even regional competitions and participated in the national level tourism contest. All my brothers, sisters, and cousins were members at one time or another. The club's activities involved hiking, river rafting, cycling, and other sports. We were exposed to all this at a very young age. Maksut, how did you get involved in mountain climbing? What influenced your decision to choose mountaineering as a profession? When I came to Almaty for the first time, I was visiting my sister. I found a job here and I started going to the mountains a lot, carrying foreigners, tourist things, and all that. That's how I met a group of mountaineers who invited me to join the Alpinist Club. I started climbing and taking lessons. If I had encountered difficulties in the mountains at that stage in my life, I might have left then, but that was not the case. First and foremost, I loved the company of people I was climbing with. How Maksut decided to become an alpinist is the mystery of all mysteries for all of us. I still don't know how he got this idea and what influenced him to do it, or why the mountains are so irresistibly appealing to him. Of course, I am happy for him and proud of him. It amazes me that he conquers these great mountains. I cannot imagine climbing to such great height while carrying a load of heavy things. And at the same time, you are responsible for the lives of the people you are with. I love the element, the nature. It is something else entirely. My first ascent was the Antikanyan Peak. I was with a group. When we got to the mountain top, I saw the horizon and the whole city of Almaty close to the clouds. It was right underneath them. And the clouds were stretching all the way to the horizon. I became instantly aware of my nomadic roots. I felt like the man of the steppe, like the steppe eagle. As I climbed peaks higher than 8,000 meters, the ascent in 2001 was very important to me. Those were our expeditions to Gasherbrum 1 and Gasherbrum 2. So, as we climbed the mountain peak, I was overcome with powerful emotions. My eyes had been burned by the sun by then, and I started crying, because the feelings I was experiencing were so strong. The tears were salty, and the pain was unbearable, because my eyes had been damaged by the sun. I remember that very well. Naturally, every ascent begins with a choice. Should I go or should I not go? I would even say that every time you climb a mountain, you can't help but ponder, why am I here, and why me? It is very difficult, it is very hard, it's cold and windy and dangerous, but that is all worth the feeling I get when I get to the top. The mountain peak is deserted, and there are no people there. And you start jumping up and down and running around screaming with joy. You are filled with indescribable serenity, peacefulness, and harmony, not only with your own self, but with the whole world, the planet, the stars, and the whole universe. You have conquered a great number of mountains. You have risked your life many times. Each peak is a whole journey. Looking back on your past, can you tell us what is it that you remember most? The mountains themselves are forgettable. I don't distinguish any particular mountain, but that's probably because I live in the present. Of course, there were many pleasant memories of our climbing, but most of them have to do with the people who are with me at the moment, with their native countries, their cultures that I am familiar with, because I have traveled there and know those places. Every mountain, from the simplest one to Mount Everest, made me grow and mature. We had to overcome many hardships and challenges together, and in situations like that, you learn a lot about who you are as a person and what you are made of. I learned a lot about my weaknesses first and foremost, and I had to overcome them. Our whole life is one big ascend. Life is the highest and most important peak. It is higher and more important than Mount Everest, and much more difficult than K2. Maksut, traveling around the world is a part of your job. What countries or cities prove the most memorable to you? I am drawn to different cultures, the musical instruments they play in a certain country, how their people relate to one another, how they relate to their mountains. That is something I can relate to myself. I visited Nepal 10 times. I visited Kathmandu, which is the mecca of mountaineering and adventure tourism. One of the most memorable trips was to Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. Those were my smaller projects. 10 trips to Nepal, numerous trips to Pakistan. We only visited the mountains in China, and I've also been in Tibet twice. To me, all countries of the world are associated with mountains. Mountains are not just structures made of ice, stone, and snow. They are a special world, a whole culture. Mountains have their own soul. Sherpa people from Nepal, Tibetan people from Tibet. I associate all countries with the country's mountains. A country must have its own mountains. Recently, a unique alpine rope park was opened in Chimbolak by your initiative. Tell us about this project. The general idea was to create a community of mountaineers, people who would go to the mountains. So we created the Alpine Club, and the park provides an elementary sort of infrastructure in Chimbolak for people to start getting interested in mountaineering activities. There was a question of creating something for children in Chimbolak, a fun and athletic project, and so we went along with the idea of creating a rope park. He had this opportunity and he made the most of it. I respect him so much for it. It is work, overcoming one's fears. Children are helped to overcome their fear of heights. This is the safest park in Kazakhstan. Children from orphanages come to play here, and they're incredibly happy to see this unusual complex in Chimbolak. Apart from the rope park, we also have a children's camp here, a scout tent camp. Children live in tents and sleep in sleeping bags. We develop the children's leadership qualities. It is very important. These kids will grow up and live in society, and the experience our camp provides will be very useful for them in the future. Your family plays an important role in your life. Please tell us, how did you meet your wife? And has your and your wife's lives changed since you had children? Alpinism brought my wife and me together. I was a mountaineer at the time. Once when we were descending from the peak in Ukidze, we exceeded the control time and thus became famous in the Alpinist Society. Maksut came up to me at the Alpinism Federation and asked, "Are you Olga?" And I thought to myself, dear me, I am famous. I said, yes, I am Olga, who exceeded the control time. She was a part of the group I was leading to Nepal, to the foothills of Mount Everest. She asked me to take her with me. She said she loved traveling and wanted to go with my group. We became close while we were preparing for the journey, and the trip to Everest brought us even closer. So our relationship began with Mount Everest. I woke up early one morning and saw flowers everywhere. Maksut was kneeling with a ring in his hand. So I thought about it for 2 minutes and said yes. My wife knows about the nature of my job. She knows how dangerous it is, and so she never complained or made any ultimatums. It wasn't until later that she admitted to taking calming medications during the most extreme and dangerous parts of the journey just to get through them. I had a dream one night about another 15 8,000er appearing on our planet. I woke up in a cold sweat, horrified. Isata is still very little. We're raising him to be athletic and strong. Life in mountaineering requires strength and endurance. Maksut takes Isatai to hockey. Isatai plays on the children's hockey team in Almaty. K2 is considered one of the most difficult mountains in the world. They even say it is more difficult to climb than Mount Everest. How did you manage to conquer it? And how many attempts did you have to make? I have climbed almost all 8,000ers on my first try, but I managed to climb K2 only on my 6th try. All previous attempts, first, second, third, and fourth, they were all on the verge of life and death. It was hard, but you did it. To Everest they went together with Vasya and ended up spending a night in the cold. It was scary but understandable. Almost all mountains were conquered on his first try, but it took him 6 attempts to climb K2. That was frightening. Every time we had to make a choice. Either we continue to climb and die, or return and then find the courage and strength to go back to this mountain. I thought the mountain was uncompromising. It scans you in 5 seconds. You must be internally prepared for the mountain. You must be pure inside, pure in your thoughts, intent, and physical training. K2 demands maximum preparation. Experience is largely due to chance. You must be honest with the mountain. You must be dedicated. You must work hard and give a part of your life to this mountain. And maybe then it will allow you to climb to its peak. And when we finally did it, the most important thing for me was that I did it with the people, fellow alpinists whom I felt most close to. We were standing on the mountain and peak together. The most important thing in alpinism is the team. When he came home from K2, it was like he was hollow inside. He barely left the house for about 6 months after that. He was awake at nights and slept during the day. It wasn't until before the New Year's holidays that he came out of his stupor, thanks to our joint effort as a family. I worry a lot when he leaves to climb mountains. Of course, it makes me proud that he plants the flag on the highest peaks in the world. When he climbed the last peak, K2, he got the hero's title. Maksut, you travel to many countries, but you always return home. What does Kazakhstan mean to you? This is the land where I was born, the land that gave me life, and the land I will go to after I die. It is important to respect the land, its history, one's own roots, because without it, there is no future. To me, loving my land is like loving my family. Being a Kazakh, a Kazakhstani, being in harmony with the world, and being the son of your parents, this is very important for me. Every man has his own Mount Everest, and our hero has made his choice. He chose us, his 15th 8,000er, his family.